All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It is 11:01 Central Time, of course. Let's give we're still missing a few people here and there, but let's give one more minute to the rest of the people that are registered and will be joining soon. Again, I hope everybody is having a great day, middle of the week, right? So we're almost there. Good morning, Anthony. All right. Hey, I just want to double check. I want to make sure you guys can see me and hear me, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I see thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. Just want to make sure. What about the screen? Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
You can see it, all right. Give me 1 second. Will you just switch from Google Meets workplace to Zoom? And I can I see the presentations? Just want to make sure this is all set before we get started. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, now it's up. All right, I think we are good. And my team, if you guys can remove that logo from the middle of of the presentation, I see a big results IQ. There we go. There we go. I think we're good here. Again, technology, and we're here to talk about technology, but we also get hit in the face pretty much with technology. So it's our everyday now. So with that being said, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Oscar Jaramillo. I'm the CEO of Results IQ. We're an Apollo and Hotspot Solutions partner. We also work with other CRNs. However, our main focus here is really building revenue systems that turn visitors, turn intent, turn data into actual pipeline. And if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, we know that there's all kinds of leads out there, there's all kinds of data. But what really matters is what actually turns into an opportunity, a potential deal, and eventually into revenue for your companies, right? So that's exactly what we're covering today. We're going to turn that effort right out that we are, doing as business leaders, right, to drive traffic into actual revenue and leveraging AI. So with that, joining me today is James O'Sullivan. He's a sales educator at Apollo, a former VP of sales. So today, James and I want to show you the new game, right? It is different. It is different than it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. Everything keeps changing, and that's the reason why we're here, right? We want to give you a fresh perspective, and let you know that getting found is really half of the game, right? So understanding that people can find your company, find your brand is really only half of the way. The other half is really knowing who actually showed up and being able to act in the moment before it passes. That's the new game. So timing is not everything, is the only thing. So I'm gonna say that one more time because I want to make sure that it gets in there. Timing is in everything, is not everything, is the only thing. So it's all about timing in sales. We all know this, but we know that timing can be challenging, right? And that is going to be our focus today. So with that, let's dig in. If you could go to the next slide, please. So before we do that, I want to make sure that I introduce obviously myself in a proper way and also James. So again, joining me today is James. He's a sales educator at Apollo, former VP of sales. James has spent years building and leading high-performing sales teams. And his focus now is really helping reps and revenue leaders work smarter using data and intent signals, right? Using technology and data in order to fill up that pipeline and drive revenue. And this side, we're one of the top, partners globally for Hotspot. We're also an Apollo partner. When we're one at Results IQ is one of the very few agencies that truly understands how to connect this ecosystem, this revenue system, right? That is from SEO to AEO. That's what we do as an agency. Apollo, we also know how to set it up, how to optimize it, how to use it as real sales. Nice to meet you, James. I see that from Anthony. How to use it. I'm always watching those comments. So if you have questions, you got comments, I'm here for you. So thanks for that, Vincent. And then Hotspot or your CRM. So really having a connected revenue system, that's what we do, right? So we're not just an agency that does AEO, SEO. We're an agency that understands the end to end. So with that, what we're covering today is, a few things. So first, I wanna start with the challenge, right? So think about this: 97 of 100 website visitors never become pipeline, right? So these are people we're gonna dig in on why this is happening, how to address it. Then I want to share how AI search and your website connect, right? So what are the two things? How do we connect these two platforms, right? This specific, AI, demand opportunity, and then your actual website, and how to make sure that you can find those buyers at the right time, right? So remember, timing is everything. After that, James is going to take us through website visitors, intent data, and is actually going to share his screen and show us how to do that in action, right? So how exactly do that in your website, how to leverage Apollo for what it is, an amazing platform. And then we're going to close out with a live Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, yes, you can throw them in the chat, but ideally you can write them down. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to go through and make sure that we answer some of those. If we don't get to it, then we'll come back and send those over via email. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So before I do that, I want to ask a quick question, and that is, what if I don't, it's really not a question. I want to go through this quickly, but it's more about you thinking about this, right? Is a concept, right? Is more of a comment. What happens, or what would happen if you have a ton, or really your best leads right now, they're in visiting your website, they're interacting with your website, but they're never getting visible, or they're never being found, or they're never going to get to your sales team? What if you could get one or two or three of those leads to talk to your sales team today, right? Or to be enrolled in one of your sequences and eventually take an action on that calendar invite, or take an action on meeting with one of your reps. How much is that worth to you and your business, right? This is happening every day. So if you're in Hotspot, you know that we get this daily report that shows us, hey, 97, 55, 43 companies visited your website today. You're like, man, I wish I knew, right? I wish I knew who was visiting that website, right? And that is one of the things that we're looking to solve today, right? So who are those visitors? What are those companies doing? How are they getting there? So what is the intent behind them visiting that landing page or that service page? And then how to reach out to them. Again, timing, right? So how to reach out to them that same day, right? As soon as they're visiting, hey, that should be firing that workflow so that somebody is reading that email and ideally taking action on that. Okay. So one of the few things that want you guys to think about is, hey, today, right? So the first thing is today, are you actually using your website visitor data at all, right? And I'm not asking about your traffic. We all can go into Google Analytics or Hotspot website analytics and see, hey, I got, I don't know, 10,000 visitors, this past week, but it's actually, more than that. Like, hey, well, are you using it, right? Are you using it to trigger workflows, to book meetings, to do specific outreach, right? That's a question, right? And the second thing is, do you know what are the pages that are getting the most visits, and who's actually on them, right? Probably not, right? You know that you're getting a lot of traffic, but you don't know who or where that traffic is coming from. And then lastly, out of everyone that is visiting your website, I wonder, how many of those leads, again, to my point earlier, how many of these could be converted and actually generate revenue this month, right? Could be a lot, could be few, but for most companies, most B2B companies, there's a very good percentage, a very good part of those leads that are getting lost, right? That nobody's tackling, that they're never gonna go back to your website and you lost that time, that opportunity, going back to time. So anyways, if you have a really genius way of using it, like if you say, "Hey, Oscar, you know what? I'm actually using website visitors. I know who's visiting my website, and I got this amazing workflow that is set up so that I can catch them, nurture them, and then convert them." Then please drop it in the chat. We would love to hear from you. All right. So with that, let's go to the next page. Let's start moving a little bit faster. There's a lot of stuff to cover here. But let's think about this, right? So for every 100 people, that visit your website, 97 or more, right? 97 is really the standard, but some companies are, in the 99. Like 99 people will never come back to your website, will never make it into your funnel. And that's a big issue, right? That's a lot of lost traffic. We spend a lot of money on content, email marketing, SEO, ads, and so on to drive traffic to our website. And then what happens? Is invisible. Nobody sees him, right? They get lost in the web, right? And that is a big miss for most companies, all right? A lot of times it's not even that we don't know that they're there. Maybe we get a signal, but then we have a very slow follow-up, right? There's no automation behind it. So, hey, you may be using Apollo today and you see, obviously you go to the tab and you can find website visitors if you go look for them. But if there's no automation behind that, then really you're leaving that up to a sales rep, SDR, to go back, check that, and potentially send a few emails or make a few calls or match it to an ICP buyer persona. That's not what we want, right? So, and then lastly, we're kind of leaving it up to, again, us humans, to take an action, right? To look at data, to think, put the 2 points to, the two data points together and eventually take action. Is that efficient? If you have a really good team that has a very specific process, then it could be. But for the most part, again, I'm talking about general B2B, environments and companies. Um, for most companies, is not good, right? It's not efficient. We want automation from our CRMs to be triggered when these things happen, and we want those leads to be at the top of the list, right? So when you think about lead scoring, again, we want them at the top. So again, one thing, just a quick question, James. I know you obviously seen a lot of, a lot in your time as a VP of sales. You were, at some point part of that team, but what does it mean when you think about leveraging data like this and being able to identify who was in your website at the right time and being able to assign that lead automatically to a rep, or even leaving a workflow, do that initial outreach? What does that mean to a team and pipeline and revenue?
Well, there's obviously a lot of business there, right? And you can see it a lot of companies just through their e-com, but oftentimes people come to the website, they're early in the process. You can be asking the best questions and defining how they want to be thinking about this. Even if they're not buying today, that's a great time to be starting the conversation. If they are looking to buy, when they deal with somebody, usually they spend more money and they're going to be happier with what they got. They're going to get the right thing. And at least in my experience, I've been in a lot of different companies where the data on who's visiting the website either doesn't exist or it's in a walled garden somewhere. It's not tied to what the sales team is doing. We would get a report like a month, a week later, and it would be almost useless at that point. It's real nice when it's as close to real time as possible, because oftentimes you're doing all this work, sending emails, making calls. Sometimes you don't get in touch with people, but if you see they're visiting the website or even going to the pricing page, or multiple people from that company are going there, it just gives you some confidence that what you're doing is working too. So everything from just knowing what's working on the activity to teeing up easy wins to expanding the TCV, the ACV of a deal, just because you're getting involved in the conversation earlier. There's so many different ways that it can help.
I love it. I love it. And at the end of the day, it's again efficiencies, right? So most companies are lean in terms of sales teams, SDRs. It's hard to find a good SDR nowadays. So they're just very lean, right? Lean teams. And that's when you want to leverage the data for what it is and have it structured in a way that makes sense, right? Because again, we all have tons of data. Most companies have, between 14 to 21 different technologies in their stack. So that's not the point, right? The point is not to add more complexity. The point is to simplify and automate, right? So that your team is really focused on those leads that are going to drive revenue. With that, let's move to the next page. We're just going to go through this quickly. I talk a lot, I talk a lot, so I'm going beyond what I should be saying here. But so I got a quick quiz, right? So, and this is really to open up your mind and give you perspective. But first question of this quiz, you can type in the answers in the chat. But first question is, how many monthly users does Claude have? What do you think? Is it 50 million, 40, 245 million, 500 million? Type in the answer on the chat. Great. I see 500. I see 50. We'll see. We'll see who's right. We'll see who's right. Then second question is, Google still the dominant player in search, right? Are they still driving most of the search, the volume? So is it yes, by a lot, yes, but kind of slipping. No, AI is really kicking Google's butt, right? You can say it like that. And then lastly, roughly what share of search type queries does ChatGPT already have or handle, right? Is it about 2%, 9%, 17%? What do you think for question number 3? 2%, I guess I see yes by a mile, I see B. Great, great, great. All right, next, let's just check for answers right here. All right, so not surprised, right? It's right in the middle, right? So right now, and this is just Claude, right? This is not ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. This is just one, and it's 245 million monthly active users and growing at a crazy rate, right? And this is just one AI, LM, right? You still have the others. Now, is Google still, the dominant player? Still, yeah, but it's slipping, right? And I'm happy we are going to send you some content in this presentation after the presentation, so that it can give you an idea on how the market is changing and how search is slipping or changing pretty quickly here. And then lastly, about 17% of search site queries are going through ChatGPT. Again, this is one out of the few LLMs that most people are using. So search is changing and it's changing quick. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thanks everyone for participating. I love it. I love it when I see those answers in the chat. So one thing that I want to highlight here is what I just said, right? So when you think about 2026, we've been hearing about AEO, SEO, well, SEO evolving and really working in parallel with AEO and GEO and so on. But you can think about this for 2026, second half of 2026 going into 2027, is this, right? Are you looking to continue to work the same way and compete in the same corner of the field that you always play, which we all know for most companies has been Google? It continues to be a big player. We still need to optimize for Google, but hey, what about the rest? Demand is shifting, right? Search is going somewhere else. So the question is, will you stay comfortable and stay there, or will you start thinking and evolving your strategy to be found everywhere where your buyers are searching, right? That is a big question. That's right. So I see Alejandro there. We do need to play in both fields. It's AI search, SEO, AEO, and so on. All right. So, yep, let's go into why this matters, right? So just a quick, data point here. Half of the consumers so half of all consumers, right? Not just consumers, all consumers use AI power search today. And it's about a 750 billion revenue opportunity by 2028, right? So this is not far out, right? This is McKinsey, with their study. This is really the time to continue to play or strategize on how you're going to integrate these specific tools and strategy into your playbooks, right? So it's not wait until next year. It's not wait until 2028. It's not wait because what I got is working for me today. Is really looking at, hey, how do I integrate and evolve? Let's move to the next slide. Okay. So just very quickly, I'm way past where I should be in terms of my timing here with the slides, but Hope you can forgive me, but hey, how has it changed, right? So the landscape, as I said, has shifted, right? It's not just Google anymore. Today, before someone clicks in your website, the AI, right, whether it's ChatGPT or it's Claude or Gemini, it's already answered their question, right? And it's already recommended an option, right? So it's not just giving an answer and saying, hey, for Apollo optimization, go to Results IQ, right? It's saying, hey, go to Results IQ because these other three agencies specialize in Apollo onboarding or Apollo optimization. But out of all the three, what we recommend is for you to go with Results IQ, right? That is different, right? It's not just showing you like it used to for Google with rankings and keywords and so on. It's actually giving a recommendation, right? It's giving them the option to go, right? So ranking is not ranking, like you guys know that SEO, ranking is not a finish line anymore. The actual goal today is to be cited, right? To be mentioned and to be the answer, right? Be the answer is the biggest thing right now, right? So I don't want to just show up as a potential as a citation in a prompt for ChatGPT. I want ChatGPT to have the information that it needs, be able to have credible citations and recommend Results IQ as the agency for Apollo, Hotspot, and AEO type of work, right? AI search optimization work. I want that, right? So now, before anyone in the room concludes that SEO is dead, SEO is still very important, right? So I'm not throwing SEO down. Google is still processing a crazy amount of searches every day. We're talking about 8 billion plus searches every single day. So organic traffic in SEO is still a major source of traffic for most of your websites. However, is evolving, it's changing, and it's changing fast. So the question is not is SEO dead? The question is how do I strategize and how do I implement the strategy that can combine SEO plus AEO, GEO, and then intent data, and then automation from my CRM. That is the playbook here. All right, let's move on. Okay, I'm not gonna go big into this. We just touched it, but listen, SEO is about being found, right? Being able to have those keywords, being able to have content that is optimized and structured, right? So that we can actually Google can find it, crawl it, and recommend it. Then AEO is really more about being selected. Like, hey, out of the three, which one, which company do I want to select to show it to this user, ChatGPT and so on. And GEO is about having that layer of authority, right? That credibility, having AI citations or citing your actual brand and your services. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay. All right. So the next thing here is when you think about that, right? There's a few things. I'm going to touch on this very quickly, but your website action plan, right? So it's more about your services and content and how to structure that into evidence that AI can actually review and cite, right? So one is your page optimization, right? So most service pages, just very quickly, are written for humans, right? Humans who already know you, right? AI is really obviously it's not a human and it doesn't know you. It's really arriving to your website or your service page with zero context, right? So every service page needs to clearly answer 5 questions, right? When you think about this, when we're working with our clients and we're optimizing copy, we're doing copywriting, we're restructuring their pages, we're asking, hey, what is this service, right? That's one of the best initial questions that the AI is going to be going through. Like, what is this service, right? Who is it for, right? So if your page is just saying like, hey, we sell X, Y, and Z, and it's not clearly telling you who is it for, AI is not going to know who is it for, right? What problem does it solve? What makes it different? And what are the results of what you do, the product, the service, or so on, right? So that is huge, right? So when you're looking at optimizing your page, make sure that you always answer those 5 questions. The other thing that you do here is comparison content, right? So do you know what type of content AI cites the most? And so that's the question, right? So do you know what type of content it does? And it's really comparison pages, right? So if you have a comparison page that is really comparing your company versus competitor A, B, and C with real data, pros and cons. AI loves that, right? They love to be able to say, okay, I was thinking about providing these three recommendations, and Results IQ is clearly doing the work for me. It's telling me why their service is, is better, is more efficient, is less costly, and so on. They love that because it's, in a way you're making it easy for them to then provide a recommendation. Then the other thing is strategic FAQs, right? Doing your schema, making sure that those FAQs are balanced, right? They're not just frequently asked questions for humans, but they're really frequently asked questions for humans and AI, right? So, and they shouldn't be just generic questions. They should be questions from the prompts and the data that you're getting from these AI agents, right? So understanding what your buyers are asking for. All right. So and the last one is identity, right? So this is clearly for marketing and sales. If your identity, your digital identity and AI identity are not the same, like if you're speaking or positioning your brand as something else in your content in LinkedIn versus your homepage versus your About Us page, then AI is going to be confused. It needs to be aligned and it needs to be optimized with meta descriptions, making sure that all across your identity is truly aligned, right? So you should all be speaking the same language in terms of content and so on. Let's move on to the last slide here before I pass it over to James. Okay, so this is what it looks like, right? So here's the success. So we do have many clients that are doing SEO and AEO with us. And what we see here and what you're seeing here is just a screenshot of what we show our clients, right? Where they start and where they see, what are the prompts, what are the citations, which pages are driving and which AI agents are driving the most traffic so that we can optimize for those, right? So again, it's all about citations, it's not just rankings. So I just wanted to let you know that you could easily layer in AEO without having to disrupt what you're already doing for SEO, for ads, for your overall marketing campaigns. And you could see tangible results, right? So today we can actually track leads that are coming from your AEO efforts, and we can follow them all the way to, close one or revenue attribution. Okay. So James, I'm sorry it took so long. I want you to go ahead and take it over from here.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, and thank you, Oscar. And now let's get into, and we can leave those slides up if you don't mind, and I'll just holler over when to switch them. We'll keep it simple. I'll pull it up for screen share just because I'm going to show you how to do some of this stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. But once
All
you
right,
get that
you should be coming up in a second, James. My apologies.
No, you're good. And thank you. But yeah, we're going to get into section 3 here, which is intent data in action. Because we're covering a lot here, but what do we do with it? I'm going to give you a couple ideas, a couple ways that people are using this to really transform their selling and knowing where to go. And this, I think that slide's still coming up. There it is.
There we go.
Perfect. So yeah, let's get into intent data in action, because when we want to establish authority, whether on Google or we're trying to be the authority when people are doing things in AI search, right? We want to leverage that effort towards our growth, selling more, growing top line. And how do we do that? Well, we've got to connect what we're doing with the people who are visiting our website. So I'm going to challenge something that a lot of sales teams don't think about. Some do, but it's something that a lot of take for granted, where they limit their view of it. We spend a lot of time talking about who to call, what emails should say, what's a good pattern breaker, right? But one of the most underestimated variables in sales isn't who or what, it's when. So here's some data on that. That is, leads are 60 times more likely to convert when contacted quickly within an hour versus 24 hours. Now, most people aren't getting on their leads of people visiting the website or even the form within 24 hours. But if you can get on top of people immediately while they're thinking about it, while it's fresh, while they're actually thinking about it that day, having conversations, people are much more likely to convert. And that's not an incremental improvement, obviously, right? That's a huge shift. That's like a paradigm shift. That's a completely different outcome. So when most teams are working off of weekly lead exports, batched email sequences to leads that were put in there months ago, or they're doing the manual research to figure out if somebody's good, there's a lot of time wasted. By the time they're already reaching out, they've moved on, or they've talked to somebody else and had what they care about defined by that organization. And they're not defining it in your favor, they're defining it in theirs. So buying intent doesn't wait, right? And neither should your team, and it doesn't have to. If you don't mind going to the next slide here. So you have a form on your site, right? But before a prospect fills out a form, they're leaving a trail. And that's a big insight, because when you're waiting to the form, you've chosen to ignore a lot of data. That intent data lets you read that trail. It tells you who is actively researching a solution like yours right now. It shows you what topics, pain points, what products that they're very focused on. And it tells you when they're most likely to be open to a conversation. So this is a shift from reactive selling, waiting for a form fill, right, to proactive selling, reaching out at the exact moment somebody's thinking about it, active research mode. Maybe there's a group. I know that oftentimes at larger companies, me and a couple other people would be tasked with researching options for something, coming up with ideas for an executive. That's a great time to be talking to them, planting yourself in that conversation in a deep way. If you don't mind doing the next slide. So how does this work in practice? If this looks complicated for you, don't let it look complicated. Give me the benefit of the doubt on that. I'm going to hop into the app and show you in just a second. But here's how it works in practice. You identify your website visitors. Companies are visiting your website every day. Right now, there might be some company visiting your website, looking at it, and they've got clear buying intent. The first step is knowing which companies are visiting, not just counting page views, but identifying who the companies are, the people visiting. And then you want to filter by company fit. You don't want to just take all the people visiting your company website. If you're selling things for nuclear reactors, if I visit your website, I'm not going to be a great lead. You don't want your team researching, spending time, or following up with me, right? So you're going to want to filter by company fit and really use your ICP filters, company size, tech stack, engagement level, all these different things, so that you can be focusing on the accounts that match your ideal customer profile and are a good use of your time. Quality over volume, always, right? Then you're going to surface the right prospects. Obviously, if you have a sense that this company is very interested in what we're doing, then you want to go a level deeper and find the exact right people there. And ideally, you want to make this all optimized, automated, something that's immediately happening as soon as you're starting to see, hey, this company's visiting, or this person from that company, they're a great fit. We know that they're the ideal person to be talking to. So let's have something AI powered messaging, reaching out, tailored to exactly their type of company, what they're looking at on our website, that sort of thing. We want to be booking that meeting while the iron is hot, maintaining urgency, keeping that context. So that's the full loop from anonymous website visitor to booked meeting. And I want to show you what that looks like in Apollo. So I'm going to, if it's okay, I'll take the screen share. And I'm already signed into my account, which I should be able to get on the screen here. Pardon me. Here we go. Application window. Perfect. Everybody able to see that? Oscar, you can see that, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes, all good.
Thank you. So here I'm at the home screen of Apollo here. So if you have an Apollo account, you might recognize this. By the way, when you do log in, you're at the Getting Started tab. That's what you'll see if you're new and you're signing up today at apollo.io. You could create a free account and actually probably test out everything I'm doing here. But you can also join me for webinars just by going to this button at that home screen. Watch a webinar. That'll show you all my upcoming live webinars. Now, I want to show you real quickly that there's a ton of filters in Apollo. We were talking about, hey, knowing the companies visiting the website and also filtering them. You notice that directly on the nav column here, we've now got something that says website visitors. That's because people like that data. There's a lot they want to do with it, so we've given it its own tab. You'll notice that we're tracking not only visited companies, but we're starting to get into visited people, the actual contact level there. You have both of those, as well as analytics and full filtering capabilities, along with when you're in people or company search, you have access to all those different filters, the type of filters that'll let you know, hey, is this a good fit for what I'm selling? Everything from their industry And type of company, size of company, location. Potentially you want to optimize that you're spending your own time or your team's time on the leads that are visiting website. They're interested in what you're doing that are bigger. Others maybe go e-com. But you'll notice that directly in search here, we have that filter for buying intent. And I dramatically underestimated how many data partners it takes to run a business like Apollo. I was a customer for longer than I've worked here, but there's tons of them. Some of these filters have one or more data partners just for that filter. Buying intent is one of those. There's multiple companies we get data from with all these intent topics. That's the type of things that people could be searching about. Ideally, the one you'd be selecting the ones that are related to what you sell, your products, services, that sort of thing. But this filter is here so you could find people that have some level of intent searching. And then you could even break that down further by how often and how recently. You'll notice that in the filters here, we also see website visitors because you can start looking for companies and people directly here in search and sorting based on have they been to the website or has their company been there? What pages have they been to? How often have they been back? That sort of thing. But we're talking about taking it end to end. And that would normally be something that would be more too complicated for most people to figure out. It would previously, this would have taken me a whiteboard and probably a couple other people and a lot of caffeine and some time to start figuring out, okay, how am I going to automate this all end to end? But things are getting so much easier. And it really, if you start focusing on your AI search and you're going to want to drive more people to your website and be servicing in more places when you see how easy it is then to leverage this, because with AI, you can start doing things that you never would have been able to do before. You'll notice I clicked into AI Assistant. That's just a way of using Apollo to have some help here. You could just ask it to do things. And in this case, we're talking about leveraging that website visitor information as well as the intent data. We want to do something with that. We want to be automating some level of reach out or research. So I'm just going to pop over here and say, please automate researching every company that visits my website. I want them researched for fit on what I sell. Please also check if they have active intent for the type of thing I sell. So I'm just going to be asking again, company visits my website, that's the trigger, then research them. Figure out if they're a good fit for what I'm selling. I also want to know if they've been out there searching for this sort of thing before visiting my website. That would make sense. Potentially they're coming to my website late in the process or after they've done a bunch of research and now they really want to move on something. So I'm going to ask it to check the intent filter as well, see if that data is already there. For any company that is qualified and has intent, please put into a high intent list. For any qualified companies, please put into a qualified list. The rest put into a list elsewhere. So pretty simple so far. We're leveraging both intent data and website visitor tracker data, which by the way, when you look at the data, like nobody's doing that, tying both of those together. Now we want to be doing something with that, right? So you could just ask it to create a best practices sequence. Please create a best practices automated sequence to start working the ideal person in every company that is qualified. So I'm just going to pop that in there. Again, nothing fancy. This doesn't require any prompt engineering or like a PhD in data science. I do trainings on this, on leveraging the AI in Apollo all the time. And one of the things I like to show folks is that you can almost be like a bratty kid. It's almost better oftentimes to be like a bratty kid, like that girl in Willy Wonka. Because oftentimes we're limiting ourselves. When you're looking at the stuff that Oscar's talking about here, a lot of it's stuff we never knew existed. Combining website visitors and intent data, many people don't know existed. So if you're too prescriptive here, if you try to get too much into the details, oftentimes you're limiting yourself on some really cool stuff that's possible. I just talk to its stream of conscious, and if it can't figure something out or if it needs more details, it just ends up asking. You'll notice that it's already broken down everything I'm looking for. It's going to be building a workflow. That's an automation directly in Apollo. It's going to be, and you'll notice that the AI always tells you what it's working on, and it is verbose. You'll never be at a loss. I didn't give it some stuff because, like, I didn't tell what the intent topics were, the type of things I'd be looking for intent. and it's actually figuring it out. It's figuring out the ideal buyer intent topics based on the information it has on my company, what I sell, that sort of thing. It's gathering all the data on what I do to work my leads and what's working. Plus it has access to all that metadata from thousands of sales teams and sellers. And it's putting together ideas on how it's going to research it. So you'll notice it's already got multiple AI agents building all of this from beginning to end. A really amazing setup, something that's totally automated, and then checking these multiple data fields all at once before we're ever involved. If you have reps, or if it's just going to be you, by the time you're interacting with something, it's already been touched, it's already been researched, the notes are on there, it's already been collated and organized, so you're always on top of the ones that are visiting your website the most and already in the intent data. The others you could put the right amount of time towards, and maybe the unqualifieds eventually you follow up with if it seems like it could be a fit in some way. Right now, I just have them going to a list that will be doing nothing. So I'm going to let it go for one more second. You'll notice that anytime it's building something for me in Apollo, you'll actually be able to see it here on the left. These buttons as well will take you to, in this case, a company view that built a search to find the right types of companies, the ones visiting the website. It's now building a sequence. A sequence, of course, in Apollo is your way of working your game plan, your playbook, how you're going to work leads, including the timing. It's put together something for website visitor outreach, qualified accounts, for emails to LinkedIn, and a phone call. If you don't want to do some of those, some of you may not want to do the phone call. I would on, if they're visiting website and an intent data, that's one to make the phone call on. If you don't call that one, you're not probably going to call any of them, because that's pretty teed up. But you could always just talk to the AI to have it change things. It's giving a recap of what it's finishing up and the next steps here. And you'll notice that it's already finished this sequence. It's got 7 steps here, all with the appropriate spacing. And one of the nice things about this is when I said, hey, steal the best practices, I want to work these leads in a smart way, it's also putting together my initial emails. You notice that it's going to be doing executive persona research, strategic company research. This will leverage all that data, the intent data, website visitor data, but also it can go off platform. Like if you ask ChatGPT to research a company and a person, it can do all that too. It's going to be direct for my ICP that thinks that'll be best. And I'll be able to see examples of what it's coming up with directly on the right over here. Of course, if you're going to copy this later from the recording, you get set up with Results IQ. You want to actually just build this out. You want to see what the messaging looks like before you activate. You can just pick different leads here. You can even put one in as a test lead. Maybe it's my brother, Jeremy O'Sullivan. He loves nothing more than to be a test lead for people's new cold outbound. In this case, it'll be warmed up, but you can just pick the lead right there. It'll redo all the messaging, even LinkedIn messaging, that sort of thing directly. It looks like it's finishing up. It's asking me to activate this workflow, and it's provided a full report on what this workflow, again, automation will do. It's going to run AI research to check the fit for my company, employee count, industry, reporting maturity, sales team size, growth stage. Again, Apollo has tons of data and granular data a lot of people don't ever even see. It's going to be using all that to score it. It's going to break them up, qualified, partial, or not a fit. For the ones that have intent and visit a website, it's going to put them into an outreach sequence. And then for the ones that are just visiting a website, and also a fit, but no intent, into a different one. It's got a breakdown of all that. Perfect. And you'll notice on this side, it's already finished that automation. And earlier when I was saying, you'll notice we're in workflows, that's the automation engine. Earlier when I was saying this would be something that most people don't do because it normally would have taken a lot of time and probably a whiteboard and a lot of caffeine and maybe a team. You'll notice that as I zoom out, this is a pretty rigorous automation. But when you can build all this in what, less than 5 minutes, pretty much, it really increases the value you can get from setting up your website to really be pulling in a lot of traffic, to really be teed up for AI search, because now you'll actually be able to do something with that in a bigger way than you've ever had before. And that pretty much sums it up. You see, we've got something end to end here, everything we were discussing. I'll pop back to the slides if you don't mind getting those up there. I'll stop sharing. Perfect. So again, we want to be turning anonymous visitors into identified pipeline. That framework comes down to three things, right? Identify, know who's on the site, turn those visitors into lead, and having a great speed. You want to automate things, your outreach, so it can be truly a competitive advantage. And if you get set up with what you've seen here today, you'd be in the top 1%. Most people aren't well teed up for AI search, even though more and more of the traffic and leads are coming that way. And I think that there's a lot more confidence in those leads when when an AI super intelligence is saying, this seems like it's a great fit. I don't know. People tend to listen to them. You want to tee those up to be research, well fit, and get your people on them when it makes sense. Next slide. And again, the goal isn't to, and I've made this mistake a lot of my career, but you could always work harder, but the goal really isn't to be selling harder. And most people don't like that anyways. It's to show up at the right moment with the right message, the right data, the right understanding. It becomes a lot more fun that way too. So you want to increase the quality pipeline, improve the rep experience, productivity, reduce your costs, simplify the task. You got to tie together all the buying intent data you can have, your website, as well as from Apollo, make your team smarter, tee them up in a way, again, that you've never been able to before. So I'll pass it back to you, Oscar.
All right, all right. That was pretty good. Thanks so much, James. That was very practical. I love it. I love it every time that we can show people how to leverage AI for what it is, right? An assistant, a co-pilot, a helper. I cannot tell you how many clients we have in Apollo, and same thing for us, but that are just doing things manually that you can just simply prompt it, right? You can tell AI, hey, here's what I want, here's what I need. Is there anything that I'm missing that I should include in this prompt, right? And then it does it for you, right? So again, you just showed us in less than 10 minutes how to properly set up, identify, right? Look for the right signals, qualify, and then take action on that, right? A lot of people nowadays use Apollo for that. They run the plays, they do the co-outreach, they do everything, they warm up their domains out of Apollo. And then once they have qualified leads, somebody raises their hand, that's when they move that lead to a CRM, right? Whether it's Salesforce, whether it's NetSuite, whether it's actually Hotspot, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is the actual connected system, making sure that that traffic, that data is not just sitting untouched, that those signals are being used, and that the automation is in place. So I just love it. I love it. All right. So in terms of, let's go to the next slide, please. In terms of understanding, right? So we cover a lot. We're almost coming to the end of this class today. But one of the things that I want you all to be honest today, right? So when you think about SEO plus AEO, right? AI search optimization, right? Optimizing your website for being found in AI search engines, right? Plus Apollo, plus your CRM. I would like to understand where your company stands, right? So if you go to the next slide, the way that we measure or how we measure, companies that we're, targeting companies that we're helping is really in three stages, right? You have companies that are just sitting out, right? They're not in the game yet. They may be still focusing on SEO, ads and so on. They have no idea whether they're getting mentioned and if there's any traffic already bringing or coming from AI engines, right? That could be one sitting out, right? So if that's you, then just put in the chat sitting out, right? You got people that are warming up or companies are warming up. So they got the pieces, they kind of understand like, hey, you know what, that AEO thing, optimizing my content, structuring FAQs, kind of important, not sure what to do with it, but I need to start identifying that and then identifying visitors and maybe understanding signals, right? So you're kind of stage two, you're warming up, you're getting there, but it's still disconnected, right? You don't have a seamless flow, a workflow that is getting those visitors into actual data, qualification, and then action, right? Actioning on those leads. And then stage three is really in the game, right? You're running the full play, right? Inbound feeds outbound. Intent is telling your team who's ready. They're, thinking about timing. Again, they're acting on a real time. So again, I would love to understand if you can put it in the chat. Hey, I'm sitting now. I see a few people warming up. I haven't seen anyone yet that is in the game, but we want to get you in the game. So let's go to the next page. Thanks again for engaging in the chat. And this is what we do, right? So this is where we here. Results IQ is here to help you, right? Whether we're having a chat again, you can always book a call with me. We can have a chat about your actual technology stack and how we will go about connecting or giving you a recommendations so you can connect it yourself. We're always happy to show you around Apollo. We do full demos of Apollo. So if you're already in Apollo and you don't leverage it for what it is, happy to show you around. If you're thinking about getting Apollo or Hotspot, we're here to also show you what it could do for you. Let's go to the next page, please. So just to wrap up here very quickly, the game, right? So the game, again, we touched on this multiple times. James just touched on it. The new game is really 3 plays, but one full motion, right? You don't want to just do the qualification or you don't want to just work out of your CRM. You really want to work on AEO plus SEO plus AEO to get that traffic, right? To get that traffic into your website. Once that traffic is there, we want to use Apollo to qualify, to understand who is visiting, right? Is this company that's visiting your website qualifying for your ICP, right? Is it the right buyer persona? Are they looking for your services? And if it is, then we want to automate that outreach so they're not sitting there for days or we lose the opportunity of reaching out to these people and connecting with them, right? That's how we convert these 3 plays into one full motion end to end. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, awesome. So again, just to wrap up, AI search, AEL visibility. I know that I saw that comment, Alice. I'll make sure that I reach out to you personally so that we can go through the content and make sure that I answer any questions that you have. But AI search, AEL visibility, huge, right? You want your company to be seen, to be cited, and to be recommended. Once that happens, that's driving traffic to your website. Once that traffic is there, we can now use and leverage Apollo and leverage that intent data to do outreach, right? If you do one of the plays on its own, yes, you may get traffic, but you may not convert it, right? Yes, you may see some of the visitors, but if you're not doing automatic outreach, those leads, potential leads, may be sitting untouched for days. That's not what we want, okay? All right, next slide. So one of the things that we want to offer, as a way to saying thank you for joining us today is we want to give you your first move, right? To set up this playbook, right? So us as Results IQ, we're willing to give the first 10 book calls, whoever books a call with us, the first 10 book calls, we're going to give them this free AI to pipeline gap assessment, right? So we're really going to go and run an AI visibility assessment against your top 3 competitors. We're going to do a website and Apollo readiness audit. We'll do a hotspot activation gaps audit. If you use hotspot as a CRM, if you use Salesforce, we can do it in Salesforce as well, but those are the 2 CRMs that we play with, that we work with. And then we're going to give you a prioritized roadmap for the next 90 days. So if you wanted to work with us, that's great. If you wanted to do it with your existing agency, with your own team, we're still going to give you that roadmap so that you can leverage it for what it is. So again, if you're interested in just booking a call with Results IQ so we can walk you through this, offer this audit, or just simply give you, more context on what we just explained, you can scan that QR code. That's going to bring you to my calendar link. You can pick whatever day, whatever time that works best for you, and I'll make sure that I'm ready to have that full conversation with you with no rush. If you go to the next slide. I would like to open it up. We still got 5 minutes left. Any questions for me, for James? We're here to talk about AI search, website visitors in Apollo, pipeline generation. And obviously my QR code is still there in case that you want to go ahead and book, schedule a call with me. Again, no strings attached for the audit. If you're one of the 10, we're going to go ahead and give it to you for free. If you're number 11, we'll see what we can do about you. But again, if you're one of the first 10, we'll do that audit for free.
Oscar,
And one last thing, if you just want to talk again, if you want to talk about what we covered today, feel free to book that call. I'm happy to spend half an hour walking you through certain parts of the presentation or answering any questions you may have. Go ahead, Alejandro.
yeah, so we have 3 questions from Matt. on the
Perfect.
chat.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, we can tackle them between James and I. What's the first question for me?
yeah, so the first question is, are
Uh,
you using LinkedIn Sales Navigator too?
James,
yeah,
I don't
so
know if you want to talk. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Matt, go ahead. I think you were going to add context to your question.
yeah, thanks. So thanks, Oscar. Appreciate it. So I just wanted to go through the question for, I mean, I use Apollo. Is it can I get by without using Sales Navigator and just use Apollo for all this stuff?
James, I don't know if you want to tackle that one first.
Sure. Yeah, and it broke up a little bit, but I think I got it. So I've always been a big fan. Like when I got brought into Uber at one point, they brought me into fixed sales at one of their B2B divisions, and at the time they had Apollo and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Everybody in the team had that, and I've always thought it was a great 1-2 punch. If I had to have one, obviously I'm very biased. Not only have I been a long-term customer of Apollo, but I work there. But it would be Apollo. I always like to have multiple data tools, but nowadays with what Apollo's doing, where you could pull multiple data tools into the platform. I don't know if you have your data waterfall set up, but as opposed to just having one or two that I check manually, I've got my waterfall set up in Apollo to check like 11 other sites if Apollo doesn't have the email or the phone number. So I kind of feel like I've got coverage better than I've ever had, but I still just have the one platform.
Love it. If I could add to that, so outside of the data and the data enrichment, which is what James was kind of referring to, we found that I think the question was, can I get by without using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a pricey tool? And you could, right? So LinkedIn Sales Navigator is obviously good for data, to your point. You can find people, you can do email messages, but we find it that it's very useful when you do have it to automate, because you can then automate messages from Apollo to Hotspot, right? So if you have the native integration set up, if you have a multi-step sequence, which is the next question that you have, then you can do you can do a 7-step sequence where that first step is an email. That second step is then a LinkedIn message, right? That could be automated, right? So you don't have to do it manually if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So again, it depends on how much volume you want to handle in terms of automation in your sequences. But if you do, if you have it, you're paying and you're willing to continue paying it, you can do beautiful things in terms of automating messaging to those leads, right? So again, sending an email, then doing a automated in message in LinkedIn, you could do that through a automated sequence. You could get away from it if you just have LinkedIn Premium, but you just have to do that. You have to take that action manually, if that makes sense. So, hey, sending a message, but you have to go to the page and then sending a message manually. Ideal length of time for sequences, we like to run them over 3 to 4 weeks, right? And in between those 3 to 4 weeks, we have about 7 to 8 touches or steps, right? And that is a number or a mix of different activities that we take, right? From emails to then sending a bit of content, then sending a case study, then giving them a call, then sending a LinkedIn message, then going back to a last, like, hey, here's my last outreach, my last email, right? And then they drop off. They don't drop off out of our CRM. They get recycled into marketing, and then we continue to nurture. And then the last one, suggestion of number of emails to use for sending out sequences. Not sure, James, if you have any suggestions on that one. It really depends. It goes back to your sequence, right? What do you want to do? You don't want to just send a bunch of emails. You want to mix that up in between sending a call, sending a note, personal note, and LinkedIn, and so on.
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry,
data.
to clarify, it's to say not to use your own personal email on Apollo, but to use like the other types of email address, like another one, so you're not getting spam blocked.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. I'll take a first pass, James, if I could. So Apollo makes it super easy for you to buy a second domain and add it, right? So that you have Matt, but Matt at your company and then different variations of your domain. And why that's useful is because, again, to your point, you're not burning out your main domain. Apollo lets you do a warm up. So they're doing an automated warm up over 3 to 4 weeks. But you can send up to 50 emails per domain is what's recommended per day, Matt. So if you have just one domain, your main domain, then Apollo is going to limit you to 50 emails per day, right? And then it's going to trigger a second batch the second day, a third batch, and it's going to come back. So what that does is that if you have a big audience, it's going to slow down that outreach, right? It's going to limit it. So we do recommend having multiple domains that we can help you set up. You can buy them directly out of the website. The setup is easy. The warm up takes no time, three weeks or so. You can start using them, and then you can have a broader volume of emails going out every day. James, anything to add to that?
Yeah, the data seems to indicate like most people don't follow up enough in terms of sequences. I would do more than this, but when we look at the top 1% of people in terms of an internal metric, book a meeting, people with the most success with booking meetings, their sequence averages 6 follow-ups. I know for most people that's way more than they're doing. The average number, like the average for most people, like the average seller out there is 1 or 2 basically emails. The people booking the most are 6, and they're mixing in other things like LinkedIn connections or messages, phone calls, that sort of thing.
Awesome. James, another question from Martha, to tag along what Matt just asked, is she's asking if it's 50 emails per day in total per all seats they have, or is it 50 emails per each seat?
Well, the 50 emails is a general recommendation. When we see what people can get away with, again, everybody's mileage will vary in terms of what your email deliverability is, what that domain, how that domain, that mailbox is viewed by these internet service providers. But it averages around like 50, 60 emails that you could send per day from a mailbox without starting to deprecate your standing, your reputation with these companies and being more likely to be viewed as spam. So Oscar is bringing up, people are now buying lookalike domains like cousin domains where it's very similar. Apollo makes that, as long as you're on the pro or org plan, very simple to leverage 5, 10, 15, 20 different mailboxes, just like you would with one. Basically, you just toggle that you want to rotate through them. And now instead of sending 50, maybe you got 10 mailboxes, you're sending 500 a day. So that could be a tremendous boost in terms of your outreach for email without destroying your domain or mailbox reputation. But if you just got the one, then you're going to want to make sure you're not sending too many, because you're going to, more than likely, you're going to be seen as spam. You don't need to guess, though. Again, if you're using Apollo, there is an email deliverability tab that'll give you a deliverability score. We work backwards from the data on what's happening with your emails against, again, we have tons of metadata from thousands of sales teams. So we can't tell you exactly how Google or Microsoft looks at it, but we can tell you the essentially an effective average score of how you're doing compared to other sellers. Maybe you can get away with more, but it'll let you know in there.
Good answer. So yeah, Martha, to your question, you could send more than 50, right? Depending on the domains, you could send a lot more, right? But essentially, it's just a best practice. We want to warm up those domains to make sure that you're not burning out your domain. It's not an email per user, it's a domain type of question, right? It's like resultsiq.io, whether it's Oscar, Alejandra, Diana, Lisa, it doesn't matter. It's really the domain that we don't want to affect, right? And that's why you have the dashboard. That's why Apollo allows you to do warm up sequences. So, happy to tell you more. I know that you and I are meeting tomorrow, so we're happy to go deeper into that question. Matt, did we answer your question, or just want to make sure?
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks so much. And I also booked a call for tomorrow.
Awesome. Look forward to it. All right, team. So we are a little past noon here, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Any other question before we go? If you also, I want to open it up. You have my email right there. You also have our sales email. If you do have any questions whatsoever about anything that we cover here, feel free to send me a note. I'm happy to, again, just answer, give you context, give you data, give you anything that you need so that you can either do this on your own or get our help so that we can get you there and get this connected system to work for you. With that, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. James, I really appreciate you taking the time. I love what you did there with Apollo AI and AI tool. That was pretty insightful. So appreciate that. You're all going to receive a copy of the deck that we covered today, and also the recording of this masterclass today. Thank you so much. James, I don't know if you have anything to say before we go here.
No, thanks for the invite, Oscar, and thanks for all the questions and the engagement in the chat. It was a lot of fun. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday. Thank you again, Oscar.
Thank you all. Have a good one. Take care.